Hey students, it's Mr. Metelsky here, and this video will be a review of how to add fractions. So we're going to go through three examples, each slightly different in terms of their denominators. And we want to remember one key point where when we're working with fractions, they always must have a common denominator in order to add. So number one is an example of just that. Do you see it says 5/6 plus 1/6? We already have a common denominator because we have a 6 here and we have a 6 here. So that means we can add the numerators and just keep the denominator. So we add 5 plus 1, and that gets us 6. And we keep that common denominator, which was 6 already, so we're going to write 6 here. So our answer is 6/6, which we always want to try to simplify if possible. And we know that 6/6 is really one whole, so it's just 1. Now that's the best case scenario when you have a common denominator. So let's move on to a case where there isn't a common denominator. So in question 2, it's 3/8 plus 5/12. So we have an 8 in the denominator on the left and a 12 in the denominator on the right. So this is where we need to look for multiples of 8 and multiples of 12 and find their least common multiple, meaning the number that both of these numbers go into. So we can do this a couple ways. You can sort of do it mentally and think in your mind multiples of 8 and multiples of 12 and see which one matches. If it helps you to write them down, you might have to do that. For instance, if I come off to the side here and just do multiples of 8, it would be 8, 16, 24, 32, and so on. If I look at multiples of 12, I have 12 times 1, which is 12. 12 times 2, which is 24. Whoop, do you see how the 24 is in both? So that means that 24 will be our least common multiple. So we're going to change each of these in the bottom to a 24. Now, if we change the denominator of a fraction, it means that we need to change the numerator so it still has the same value. So the first fraction is 3/8. We don't want to change the value of that fraction. We just want to make it look a little different. So 8 to 24. If we look, 8 goes into 24 3 times. So what we're basically doing is we're taking this fraction here and we're going to multiply that fraction by 3/3. And again, the reason we're doing that is because 8 times 3 is 24. So we have to do that to the numerator as well. 3 times 3, which is 9. So 3/8 and 9/24 have the same value. Okay, if you don't believe me, let's take a look. 3/8 is 3 divided by 8. And 9/24 is 9 divided by 24. Do you see how both of them get 0.375? Alright, so we adjusted the first fraction. Now we need to do that to the second fraction. So the second fraction, we have 12. And we need to make it a 24. And we know that 12 goes into 24 2 times. So we're going to multiply this fraction over here by 2/2. So 12 times 2 got us the 24. And we do the numerators 5 times 2, which gets us 10. So now we have fractions that have common denominators that still hold the value of the original fractions. And now we're ready to add. So 9 plus 10 is 19. and we keep the denominator of 24. Don't change it to 48. We're not adding the denominators. Now at this point we try to see if we could simplify this, but 19 is a prime number, so it has no factors other than 1 in itself, and 19 does not go perfectly into 24, so we're done. Okay, so that was an example where we had two different denominators, and we had to find a least common multiple that they both fit into. Let's now check out the third scenario here. We have 4/7 plus 4/21. In this case, we have common numerators, but that really doesn't matter. Our goal is to get common denominators. So we have 7 and 21, which is not good right off the bat. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at multiples of 7 and multiples of 21. Now, I'm hoping that you can look at 7 and think to yourself, well, I know that 7 goes into 21 perfectly. It goes into it perfectly 3 times. So if the smaller number goes perfectly into the bigger number out of the two denominators, then just use the bigger number as your denominator. So we're going to make this 21 and 21. So the beauty of this is that on the right-hand side, we had 21 in the denominator. We're keeping 21, so this fraction on the right stays the same. It's not going to change at all. But the fraction on the left will, because 7 goes perfectly into 21 3 times exactly. So we're going to multiply this left fraction by 3 over 3. So 7 times 3 is 21. And then the numerator, 4 times 3, that gets us 12. So now we have two equivalent fractions compared to our original fractions, and we can go ahead and add because there's a common denominator. So we have 12 plus 4, that's equal to 16. And we keep the denominator of 21. And we want to check to see if it can be simplified. And in this case, 16, its factors are 1, 16, 2, 8, 4, and 4. And none of those go perfectly into 21 other than 1, which there's no point in doing that. So we're finished. All right, so just to summarize things, remember when you are finding or where you're facing a problem with where you're adding fractions, you want to make sure that you have a common denominator. And if you change the denominator, that means the numerator must also change in a similar way, okay, by that factor. All right, good luck.